We've never known a summer like it. Floods, cyclones, bushfires, and now the devastating earthquake in New Zealand. Watching rescue teams going about their grim work has been heart-wrenching. But as Ray Martin discovered, there have also been incredible stories of heroism and survival.
Hello.
Buzz.
Hi, Buzz.
For 24 hours after the massive Christchurch quake, New Zealander Ann Bodkin lay trapped in a concrete tomb.
I was one of the crew that handed you the water on the end of a stick.
And she knows if it wasn't for these Aussie heroes, she may well have died there.
Nice to see you.
Nice to be here. Nice to meet you.
Do you feel like someone was looking after you?
I guess, somebody had to be looking over me. It wasn't my time to go, that's for sure.
When you walk around this devastated city, it's hard to believe that anyone survived the rubble and the collapse of these buildings, but a lot of people did. Some, I guess, because of sheer good luck, others because of determination. But there are 2 people alive tonight because of the remarkable skill and the bravery of some Australians. And this is their story.
This crumpled office block, the Pine Gould building, was smashed that day. Ann Bodkin, a senior education officer, was on the 3rd floor when in a split second her office became a tangled, terrifying prison.
Did you know it was a big one? Did you feel it was a big one?
Oh yes, as soon as I heard it, I was up and under the desk very fast. Then something hit me on the shoulder and then across the back, and that basically pushed me right onto the floor.
And that's where Ann was to stay all that long, lonely day, through the freezing night and into the next morning.
Was there room to move at all, or were you locked in?
My L-shaped desk was about that far from my nose when I was lying flat on my back. There was a little bit of room that I could sort of wriggle out and just lift myself up a little bit on my elbows so that I could have a little bit of a change of position.
Were you cold?
I was cold and wet.
Oh my God!
Ann was one of hundreds trapped in buildings around the city square. The quake had struck just 5 kilometres below ground, partly the result of 2 massive tectonic plates clashing together beneath the Earth's surface. And at lunchtime on Tuesday, the city's 350,000 people felt the full force of a deadly aftershock that had been building since last September.
Now, it is your job, blokes, but is it a miracle every time?
You're not sure whether you're going to find a person, and you're not sure whether you're going to find them alive or dead.
A massive international rescue operation swung into action. It was soon joined by an Australian contingent, including Queensland's crack search and rescue team and the New South Wales Fire Brigade's most elite unit.
We'd been deployed at 3 o'clock the day before, been in a C-130 Herc to get here, hadn't had any sleep, started at 5 o'clock, set up our base of operations, got out there, did a handover with the New Zealand guys who had been working all night, and let's not forget the credit they deserve. They took 20 people out of that building that night.
They were searching for a miracle. Ann could hear the rescue going on. She could hear others who were trapped crying out for help. In the desperate hours that followed, she never gave up hope.
I could see a little bit of light, which was really, really good, and I could see that I had enough air. So I thought, well, people get rescued after days of lying in the rubble. So I'm here and I'm okay, and I'll just manage to wait until someone comes and rescues me.
I seen the pictures of the buildings falling over and hoped that she wasn't in the wrong place at the wrong time. It was only just after that I saw the email that she sent at 12:44.
So it happened at 12:51.
Yep.
Basically,
So I
was-
knew she was sat at the desk.
Ann's husband Graham knew that she was in her office at the time of the quake. But for Ann, trapped beneath the rubble, the email she'd sent just before the big hit meant that her husband knew where to look.
Did you ever think that you'd die?
No. You know, I figured that there wasn't that far that people would have to drill through to save me. I knew that Graham knew exactly where I was and that he would move hell and high water to make sure that, people rescued me. So I was just convinced that someone was going to come and get me out of there.
But Ann had no idea of the chaos going on outside.
The dust was so thick you could only see 50 yards in front of you, and you could see it billowing from sort of the direction of the central city. Then the noise, there would have been 500 car alarms, building alarms, and then the next thing was the water coming up just through every crack in the street.
Stuart Phillip was one of 400 Australian doctors and nurses attending a medical conference when their world fell down.
There was people with blood all over them, cut clothing, just a state of shock. But then over the next hour, couple of hours, then we started to see the crush injuries that were obviously much more severe.
Heading to the top of the same broken building where Ann lay trapped, Stuart found one man badly injured with his legs pinned under tons of concrete. With little experience in such emergencies, Stuart had to make a terrible decision.
We had a Leatherman knife, just a fold-out pocket knife, and we had a hacksaw. And I know it sounds gruesome, but that's what we had. And
You made the decision if you didn't chop the legs off, he would die.
we felt that he probably actually had already crushed his legs to the point where even if we got him out with his legs intact, they would need to be amputated at the hospital. I hope I never have to make that decision again.
The fact is, Stuart's agonising decision saved Brian's life.
Stuart, what would you say to him? I mean, he's now in hospital. What would you say to him? He would thank you, I'm sure.
Look, it'd be nice one day to see him in prosthetic legs walk into a bar and have a beer with him.
I suspect he'd want to shake your hand.
Oh, look, maybe we'd even give each other a hug.
But Ann Bodkin's ordeal was far from over. She'd now been trapped just a few metres below Stuart in a tiny air pocket for more than 20 hours.
You're not claustrophobic, are you?
I am.
Are you? Are you?
And that's something that puzzled me because I wasn't in there at all. But yeah, I mean, I will always take stairs rather than lifts if I can, and I really don't like being in confined places.
By that time, in the morning, I thought I should have heard something by now. By 11 o'clock, you start to think the worst, really. There's a lot of people supporting me there, and saying, keep the faith, etc. And I was trying to, but I looked at the building and thought, no, but if she's in there, I can't see how she could be alive.
Then, as the rescuers changed shift on that Wednesday morning, a rare silence fell over the square.
What's your name?
Anne grabbed the moment.
When things went silent, I certainly made as much noise as I could.
Angela. Ann.
Channel 9 reporter Simon Boda and cameraman Sean Welfare suddenly became part of this life and death drama.
I said to Sean, I just heard a woman's voice, and I dead set thought I was hearing things. And then he heard just this slight tap, and he's going, no, I just heard a tap. And at that point in time, we both just shouted out to the blokes, hey, there's somebody in there. And the next thing, within minutes, these blokes, within seconds, they're already in place communicating with this woman.
So what we're going to do, we're going to send a crew up onto the roof, and we're going to work out the best way to get you out.
Was she in a concrete coffin? Was that effectively it?
She was under a desk, and she was in a small passageway, and all she could see was a bit of light.
We started off cutting a hole where I think Buzz could put his hand through, and she saw his hand.
She saw my hand over the top, but until then she could see light. But yeah, she saw the hand over the top.
And what, you used the saws to cut the hole to get in? Or
The New South Wales fireys were ecstatic to find Anne alive. but she certainly wasn't safe yet.
Hydraulic shears, and just slowly just cut away, even down to tin snips, hacksaws.
And how long does that take?
3 hours.
3 hours.
Just as we were getting her out, there was, I think, 3 of us on the boom, and there was a tremor, and we started getting showered with rubble as she was coming out.
And what do you think, my God, we're going to lose it here?
Yeah, just after all of that, we had it right to that point, and then that happened, and I was watching, there's a big sort of chimney, the whole thing looks like the top of a ship, and it's wobbling away like this. I'm thinking, not now, after all that work, don't tell me.
I got a phone call, that Graham Richardson. I said, yes. He said, your wife's Ann Bodkin? I said, yes. And I'm thinking the worst right then. And then he said, we found Ann. And he stopped for a breather. And I said, and, because I thought he was going to say, I'm sorry she's dead. And he said, she's alive, she's well, doesn't look to have any injuries, and she's talking away to us, and she wants you with her.
But for so many others here in Christchurch, there will be no happy ending. Stuart Phillip, who was raised here, wonders whether his city will ever really recover.
What about that though, Stuart? I mean, tanks in this, it's like Beirut.
Well, that's it. It's not New Zealand, is it? Or Australia. I mean, we've seen similar scenes, obviously, in Brisbane with the floods, but it's not the city that I, loved over the 8 years living here.
Would you live here again? With your family?
No.
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 From my perspective, to actually pull you out of that hole was just an experience I'll never ever forget. It will be with me for the rest of my life.
Me too.
Immediately after her release from hospital, Anne and Graham wanted to meet her Aussie rescuers and say thanks. The boys were just as keen.
I have to ask Anne, do you think Paul's as good looking as he told you he was? I told her I was ugly. You've got it around the wrong way.
Yeah, he's much better looking than he told me.
Coming up, you familiar with the term shitbox?
Would you like to see my car?
American royalty, Caroline Kennedy.
Ford Falcon.
On a special mission to the Aussie outback.
Air conditioning works.
To help find a cure for cancer.
There's incredible breakthroughs happening here in Australia right now.
That's next on 60 Minutes.